Rich wholesalers don't make excuses. Guys, it's Rick Ginn, and this video is all about eliminating excuses and actually how to get rich. But before I get into it, do me a favor, make sure you smash that like button. You hit that subscribe button to continue to receive the best up-to-date information on wholesaling today. So let's start with what the heck is an excuse? And a lot of people have never really thought about this, but an excuse is basically your ability to defend yourself, to justify something, to blame others, and transfer fault from yourself to some object, some person, some economy. Maybe it's your phones, the cold calls, whatever it is. The whole point of an excuse is basically you put up a wall and you throw it to somebody else. The reality is an excuse is nothing more than your roadblock. It basically freezes everything you're doing and you just stop any progress, and you decide you're not going to move forward until somebody fixes your excuse. You see, the reality is most excuses are a mental roadblock. They are the trigger in your brain trying to operate under your old operating system of when you were broke, and maybe you decided to jump in all in wholesaling, and then you started doing your 300 cold calls, your tons of SMS text, your direct mail, your reverse driving for dollars, your door knocking, whatever it is, and then you started doing it and you got wildly uncomfortable and you got scared. My God, what if somebody answers the door? What am I going to do? And the easiest thing to do is someone tells you, well, that's illegal. You can't do that. And that becomes your new excuse. And then you go to the excuse. It allows you to stop, transfer it to somebody else or something or some object, and then go back to your old, comfortable, broke self. To be honest with you, the excuse itself will create so much anxiety in your life. It won't be solved overnight. It might go on hours, days, weeks, months. I've even seen it go on for years. And guys, I'm here to tell you, it's just an excuse. Honestly, most excuses are made up in your head and you use it as the ultimate procrastination tool. Now, I'm just going to cut straight to the chase and I'm going to hit you with a statement. I didn't come up with this. I believe Jordan Belfort came up with this. And maybe it's just a movie line, but dang, it's dead on. And it says basically, you can make a million excuses or you can make $1 million. The choice is yours. But here's the one thing I promise you is you can't do both. You have to choose. $1 million excuses, $1 million. You see, if you're making excuses, I guarantee you're making zero money. But if you're working towards making $1 million or you made $1 million, you don't have time for excuses. You see, your excuse is just your procrastination old self making an excuse why you're not going to make something happen. And if you understand it, you recognize it, now we can move forward on how to fix the excuse problem. And I'm going to get down and dirty on this one. I'm just going to hammer you with the truth. So step one, fixing your excuse problem is first you have to recognize. Most of you that are crying, making excuses, whining, delaying, procrastinating, you have no idea you're even making excuses. You actually believe their statements. I believe because it's raining today, I can't go out and do my appointment. Or 300 calls is just too much. I'm just going to stop because cold calling doesn't work. Most of you, if you're making excuses all the time, the reality is you don't even know you're doing it. Let me repeat, you don't even know you're making excuses because you're so used to doing it. And that was maybe your old self, your old broke self, and you just constantly made excuses. Here's how we have to fix this problem. Start to recognize it. Now, I'm going to tell you, you're not going to stop the excuse train overnight. So once you give out an excuse, and 9 times out of 10 is your unconscious mind just spitting out an excuse so you can stop what's making you uncomfortable. That's why people make excuses. Are there valid excuses? To be honest with you, you probably make up so many excuses, nobody's ever going to know if your excuse is real or not. It's like when you cry wolf. If you cry wolf every time, and the one time you maybe have a legitimate reason or excuse, no one's ever going to believe you. So the first step is recognize it. When you give an excuse, go, try an excuse. If you are having a hard time recognizing your excuse, if it stops you from doing an event, an actionable step, a money income producing activity, and you have a reason for it, 9 times out of 10, it's just you trying to go back to your old self. You're uncomfortable. How do you transfer back to comfortable? An excuse. It is the perfect lever. So once you recognize it, stop it. Just stop in your tracks and rethink about what you're going to say. And most of the time, if you just shut your mouth with your excuse and don't put it out in the world, you can actually work through the problem. I'm going to give you steps to do that going forward here. So the next step is, now that you recognize, you've learned to find when you make excuses and you're being consciously aware of it, stop doing it. Like literally just stop. You're going to have to go cold turkey, and I promise you this won't happen overnight. If you always give excuses, you constantly give an excuse in work, personal life, everything, it is basically a habit. And the only way to break the habit is completely recognize it and then completely stop it. Just stop giving out excuses. Here's the reality. When you give an excuse, especially to me, Zach, or anyone who's a highly productive individual, is they just don't care. Nobody cares about your excuse. So understand, when you give an excuse, you are announcing to the world, I'm going to stop, I'm not going to move forward, and I'm just going to keep doing excuse after excuse. To be honest with you, when you give someone an excuse, it really makes you look weak. And more importantly, not only do you waste others' time, and then next time they hear excuse, they're going to run from you. Because people give excuses because you want other people to do stuff for you or feel sorry for you. Both of them are bad for you. So stop wasting other people's time with excuses, and more importantly, stop wasting your own time. Nobody cares about your excuses. You've got to move forward. Now that we know how to recognize the excuse, stop doing it, what's the next step? Here's the secret. You're actually going to have to do the work. There is no shortcut. You said you wanted to be a wholesaler. You said you wanted to get rich in wholesaling. So if you know you can't make excuses and become rich, you're going to have to make a choice here. You just have to do the work. You know I don't teach you any shortcuts in this business. It's not the easiest thing in the world in being a wholesaler, but I will tell you, it is one of the most rewarding things you can ever do. If you truly want to become rich and have freedom of your time, there is no shortcut. You're going to have to do the work. And if you don't want to do the work, you're going to have to be completely honest with yourself, because in most cases, that's why you're making excuses on why you can't get something done. So now that you know you need to do the work, you have to understand most of you are having problems because you're using your old broke personality. We all have it. God knows I had it, okay? And you're trying to use that personality to do your new skill set to become rich. The reality is, it's not going to work. Unless you want to stay broke or go back to being broke, you're going to have to change massively. And this is a good change. Why can you not earn a ton of money so you can give a ton of options to you and your family? But the reality is, it's going to be wildly uncomfortable. It's going to feel weird, and it's going to scare you. And what happens when we get scared and uncomfortable? We want to go back to our old self. It's just human nature. You have to stay in the moment, and you've got to learn to get through it. Just be in the moment when something's uncomfortable. If you're making hundreds of cold calls, not getting the results, or you're getting unpleasant feedback, that's part of the learning curve. And honestly, if you will just do the work and get through it, you'll be fine, because you're going to learn a new uncomfortable and comfortable. But the reality is, if you use your old personality, you cannot progress and become rich at anything in life. It doesn't matter what it is. The reality is, you're going to have to kill your old self to become the new rich wholesaler. I'm telling you, I had to do this. I took longer than most because I fought it. Stop fighting it. The path is laid out for you. You guys know exactly how to do this. Go over to freewholesaling.com. Don't hesitate. Don't get started. And more importantly, don't make any more excuses. So while we're talking about our old personality, I'm going to go back to the old saying. Stop trying to look rich and learn how to become rich. Translation, you got to do the work. Honestly, I think you guys spend more energy trying to look rich, trying to impress your neighbors, your friends, trying to buy things you can't afford. You would do better off to learn how to become rich and truly become financially free, and most important, freedom of your time. So now that we know we're going to do the work and lose our old self, the next step is, instead of ever making an excuse, replace it with finding solutions for your business. So if you come to me and go, I can't cold call, it's too hard, they chewed me out, I can't pick up the phone, it makes me really uncomfortable. Say, Rick, what are some tips to make me more productive as a cold caller? Here's what I'm doing. Can you give me some advice to move forward? Now that's a conversation we can move forward with. But if you're going to start it off, I'm so scared, I don't want to cold call stuff. I don't do it. How's that? Just do it. It's just the truth. I don't know how to sugarcoat it for you, but like, if you can't get past that mental roadblock, I can't do anything for you. If you're going to make excuses for it, in my eyes, it means you do not want to move into your new personality self, and you're stuck in your old ways, which kept you broke. And until you make that decision, I can't make the change for you. And what you're going to do in between is make excuses. You see, once you lose excuses, you got to find other ways to communicate people so you can make the progress and get the job done. So replace excuses excuses by seeking solutions. Ask high quality questions to people. Think it out. A lot of times you just have a simple problem and then you just blame it like on your fear and your uncomfortability. Dig in, find the solution, stop crying, stop whining, stop using your excuses. And last but not least, this is probably the most important, is you have to become accountable to yourself. So if you've dove into this wholesaling journey, which I couldn't be more excited for you to do it, you have to understand you have to be accountable to yourself. And so many people don't want to be accountable to themselves. If you don't want to be accountable to yourself, it is very difficult to be a wholesaler because you can't fix something if you don't know the truth. And if you don't know the truth, you can't fix it. So when you screw up, just raise your hand and go, okay, I screwed up. This is what I did. What would you advise me to move forward to help me get past this issue? You see, that's not really an excuse. It's seeking a problem. There's probably a better way to phrase it. But the more you seek solutions versus stalling and whining and crying, aka making excuses, the more you're going to be stuck and broke. The reality is, if you can't keep a promise to yourself, you're never going to keep it to me, Zach, or anybody else in this world, including your family. Once you become accountable to yourself, your whole world will change. The thing is, if you're not accountable to yourself and you constantly lie to yourself, it means you negotiate with yourself. It means everything's a variable and nothing will ever get done. And how do you facilitate that? With excuses. Just stop it. The reality is, I've never met a rich person that gives excuses. Only broke people give me excuses. You know what? It's the truth. I'm sorry. I know it hurts for a lot of you, but it's the truth. I used to be one of these people, so I know the exact feeling. It took me years and years to get past this, and the sooner you accept it, the better off you'll be. So listen, guys, at the end of the day, you can make a million excuses or you can make $1 million. The choice is yours, but you can't do both. You have to decide. Listen, if you got value from this video, do me a favor, make sure you smash that like button. Make sure you hit that subscribe button to continue to receive videos just like this on wholesaling. This is Rick Ginn, and I will see you in the next video.